and welcome to the Aftershow. This show will contain spoilers, so if you've not yet seen the breathtaking Oxygen, then go and inhale it, then come back here. I know that was terrible. It's the best I've got, okay? First up is a rising star who's joined Series 10 to play the no-nonsense Abbey. It's Mimi Ndiweni.
Hello.
She's joined by star of Beowulf and Da Vinci's Demons to play the unflappable Ivan. It's Kieran Bew.
Hello.
And finally, he's terrified you with murderous mummies, killer 2D paintings, the mighty Maya, and now deadly spacesuits. It's Jamie Mathieson.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Now, before I start asking any questions, can I just say I'm really, really creeped out? Like, genuinely? Like, Jamie, what have you done? What?
I've done the best I could. The best I could to terrify everybody. That was my job.
Thank you so much. It was brilliant.
Yeah, thank
you. Cool. Well, this is a story about capitalism in the future, where oxygen is being sold for profit. So what inspired this story?
I mean, the line that I was really happy they kept was the end point of capitalism, where a bottom line where human life has no value.
Yes.
Which I really thought that in a way it's too political. But in a way, it's the point of the episode. The point of the episode is this is where it could end up if we're not careful. And in a way, it's a dark fairy tale, and obviously it's fantastical. But the idea of corporations going, if we could get away with it, the people at the bottom of the food chain would be worth nothing. You know, it's only sort of the law that's stopping them from being that way. I think the first thing I delivered, it was a sort of spaceship graveyard, so a lot of derelicts floating in space in an asteroid field. And the survivors were hopping from ship to ship, searching for oxygen, being pursued by this kind of cloud of zombies that were following them. And that was the first draft I delivered. And then Stephen being Stephen, he just had a note that he casually threw in and said, what if the monsters were the suits and they had corpses in? And I went, that is genius. And I'm going to have to go and rewrite the whole episode.
So you guys, like, what was it like going to work every day to be on a space base with, you know, walking corpses with Doctor Who?
Well, first of all, our team in the show is great. So everyone's really funny, bar this guy. Everyone's really funny and everyone's really lovely. And I'm
not going to say anything about that. You know, who doesn't play astronauts when you're a kid, or cowboys and Indians, or whatever? And it's one of those things, really, when you get to be an actor and you sort of tick it off the list of, oh my God, I got to be a cowboy. Oh my God, I got to be not only an astronaut, but you get to do it with Doctor Who as well, which is a lot of fun.
The setup is wonderful, and I remember reading it and thinking, this is going to be badass. Trudging through space with like weapons, I was like, I cannot wait. And so seeing it sort of all come together was incredible. And I remember the first day they put the helmets on us. So basically we had these massive, massive suits and we had this light up helmet. And in my head, for some reason, I thought that might go post-show with the lights inside.
Yeah.
So they turned it on and I was like, it's working! And it was the most amazing thing.
They have fans on the inside and lights. So, so the funny thing is you're wearing layers and layers of suit, which is really hot in a studio with lamps and everything, and then you put a hat on that shines light in your eyes and then has fans, so your head's really cold but your body's really hot.
So at the beginning the Doctor does a really jolly lecture on what happens to you when you're exposed to the vacuum of space.
Yes.
So did you have to do much research to write that? I mean, is it true?
It is, and because there was a sort of debate at the beginning whether or not we do the kind of TV film version of space where, and the convention you have in your head is you go into space and you freeze and that's it. And it's like, oh, you can't go out, there's no air, you'll freeze. But then when you read up on it, you realise there are other considerations, which obviously the Doctor goes through. And it was, well, do we go the long-winded route of explaining all of that? And it was thought, well, yeah, if we're going to do it for real, let's do it for real and have him. And the nice thing about that scene as well is it really builds up the worry of, we're in trouble if we go into space. So when Bill finally does, you're like, oh dear.
You know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And also you were quite descriptive in your script when you described the dead corpses. Eyes open and dead, vapour steaming from mouths and eyes. It
was spooky because I went on set for a day and it's like you see the row of zombies all sitting having a break with the with the full prosthetic on, and and because a lot of the eyes are prosthetic eyes, they're not the real eyes of the actors. So you can't, they'll be sort of chatting to you and they're not looking at you. And so you're just a bit like, right, your face is really freaking me out and I don't think I can look at it. It was a bit like that.
Yeah.
I think the first time that I actually saw some of the zombies is during a take. So I hadn't actually seen them until we were doing a take, and I was like, oh my God.
One of the guys, actually, one of the SAs, who was one of the zombies, he didn't see for like a whole day because they put his prosthetic on and he was blind and other people were leading him around. And I think he sat all day and just, they didn't take it off. He just was like committed to, this is a day without seeing.
God.
It's amazing.
Speaking of claustrophobic, this is a base under siege story, I guess, as we sort of now call them. And that's been a format that's been used in Doctor Who quite a lot. It's worked well, you know, in Doctor Who quite a lot. So what do you think it is about this that makes it so scary?
I don't know. I mean, I think for me, I'm drawn to those kinds of stories. I do love it, because as soon as it became clear what kind of monster we were looking at for this and the setup that it was going to be, it's almost like, right, if this can be a claustrophobic, terrifying one, then go for that as much as you can and pull out all the stops and don't hold back. And almost, I wrote it with that mind space and thinking, well, if I go too far anywhere, they will tell me and they'll pull me back. And they kind of didn't. I mean, you sort of have rules in place in your own head with what you can show on Doctor Who in terms of the violence and blood. You can't sort of go in that direction, really. But in other areas, I just went, no, how scary can we go with this? How grim can we make it?
Yeah.
And it's all there.
Whilst on the subject of production as well, there's that amazing opening scene where you're in space and sort of floating and stuff. How was that done?
Really, really cleverly. The walking along the space station itself, it's probably as simple as you can imagine. It's a blacked out studio with the sun in one corner, so a huge lamp in one corner. And we basically pretended that there was zero gravity. I mean, it was like a movement piece in the theatre. It was, how do you make space as efficiently as possible? We came back a few weeks later and we did all of the spacewalking stuff in a different studio that was much higher, and they hung us about 50 or 60 feet off the ground on cranes. We had harnesses on and the costume, and they swung us upside down and they taught us how to walk backwards, and it was magical. I mean, again, another thing that you can tick off and say, you're so lucky that you get to do it at work.
Jamie, your previous stories like Mummy and Flatline contain monsters that kill you in quite inventive ways. I mean, is it challenging for you to continue to come up with inventive ways of killing people?
What, in stories or in my personal life?
I mean, both. In your stories.
I think I've just got one of those brains that is always trying to find a clever monster.
It's really scary reading that episode, because wherever you go, you're not safe. The suit, the thing that's keeping me alive, is also the thing that's going to take me out. Yeah. So even if you get to a safe place, we've got to go to this next room, that room. It's like there are bubbles of safety, but ultimately the one that you're left with is, but it's right here, it's going to kill me here. The 4 Doctor Who episodes I've done, 3 of them have got somebody dying and the monster pre-credits. And it's lovely because the audience is kind of sated. They're kind of, oh, we've seen the monster, we've seen a death, and you can get away with like 10, 15 minutes of people chatting before the audience goes, where's the monster?
Where's the monster? Yeah. Abbey is awesome. She's quite different from the others in that she's a lot less trusting, you know, of the Doctor. Calls the Doctor a lunatic at one point. What was it like to play Abbey?
Great, incredible, because she just, from the get-go, from her very first scene, she's sarcastic, she's intolerant, she's feisty, and it's really fun to play someone like that. But also, the one thing I really like about Abbey is she's all of those things, but she's not stubborn, because at the end she does apologise. She isn't so stuck in her ways, and it comes from a place of, with Abbey, I believe, of just, internally, she's like, we're going to die, and you're talking about things that are going to affect us if we live. I just want to find the stuff to survive right now.
Yeah.
And because she has no real understanding of who the Doctor is or what he's done, she's just like, you've come in to the ship where I work, where I'm like, really good at my job, actually, and you're trying to tell me how to survive. Who are you?
I do like the way you've got backstory there of, you're really good at your job.
Yeah,
nowhere in the script does it say that.
I know where everything is.
For all we know, you're on probation, For slacking
I
at
know,
work?
I'm the one who knows like all
For
about
shouting
the
at your boss.
you know.
Yeah, shouting at your boss every 2 minutes.
Oh man. You two survive, Abbey and Ivan.
Yep.
You get, you know,
You're welcome.
So what do you think they're up to?
In the script, we're getting dropped off, aren't we? Mm-hmm. He's going to drop us off so that we can fight the evil corporation and make a union and create workers' rights. Isn't that right?
Yes. Yes, it is.
I remembered everything. And we did talk about that, but in reality, he's dropped us off in an alternative universe where we are policemen, because we're shooting a TV show called Relic for the BBC. So,
Are you followed by zombies? Is that the plot?
mate, it could be.
I've got one plot. I want it in there.
We should probably talk about Nardo, because this is Nardo's first full adventure in Series 10. What was it like to write Nardo?
Great fun. I mean, obviously, right for Matt Lucas, you know, any joke you throw at him, he's going to knock out the park. But the initial note that I had for Nardo, it was fairly minimal, and it was just, this is a character who has a sort of shifting, weird backstory that you can keep adding to with lots of non sequiturs, so that people are kind of trying to figure out what his past is, but aren't quite sure. So I did a bit of that, and then I was thinking, well, what's his drive? What is he about through the episode? And when I realised there was this whole thing of, you've got to get back to the vault, what are you doing in space, Doctor? And so I thought, well, I could play on that. So there's lots of him kind of picking on the Doctor and sort of being a bit of a sort of nag over his shoulder, as it were. And so I went with that through the episode for him. And then realised that that had kind of become the note for Nardo's character, because a lot of the episodes that have aired before this were written after it. So it was quite odd to see the earlier episodes and going, oh, that's kind of taking its cue from what happened in Oxygen. So that was quite fun.
Oh. Jamie, at the end of the episode, the Doctor goes blind.
Yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, what does that mean, well, for the series, I guess, going forward?
Well, I put that in because I knew that the Doctor was going to be in space without a helmet. And if we'd already set up the idea that space is really, really dangerous, and then the Doctor just shrugs it off, it's a bit of a stretch, and it would just weaken the whole idea. I mean, okay, he's Gallifreyan, he's kind of superhuman in some ways. I thought he's got to pay big time, and I was trying to figure out exactly what it could be, and I thought, I'll make him blind. I tend to try and just take away all the things that help the Doctor. So you begin with, you get rid of the, you know, most of my episodes, get rid of the Sonic, get rid of the TARDIS. You know, if I can get rid of the psychic paper, I'll do that as well. Have everybody he meets hate him and not trust him. You know, that's a good start. So that when he does finally save the day, you're punching the air and going, you know, you really had the back against the wall, and you kind of managed to pull it off.
That's so mean for the next writer. Yeah, giving him a challenge.
Because what I thought was that I would hand that draft in, and Stephen Moffat would go, "You've gone too far. You can't make it." And he went, "I love it. Let's." Because I'd had him healed at the end of the episode, and that was fine. And Stephen was like, "No, I love it. We're going to carry it on." I don't know how you're going to edit this in, but I want to know what's in the vault. What's in the vault? My theory is that it's Peter Cushing from the 1960s Dalek films. And they're bringing him back into continuity as the Doctor.
Excellent theory. I hope so, because then Peter Cushing and Peter Capaldi can have a
grey off.
A grey off.
I did have a joke which was in one of my episodes that was cut, and I'm going to air it here, and I was so annoyed it was cut, where someone called his hair grey and he said, "It's not grey, it's chalky blonde."
Chalky blonde. Excellent.
If only that was in canon, you know, and I was like, oh no, we're not cutting that gag. It's just the idea the Doctor would be indignant and say, "It's chalky blonde," you know.
Well, speaking of Peter Capaldi's fabulous chalky blonde hair, it's that time of week again. Roll Sting. This is Top of the Locks, where we measure the ups and downs of hair in Who. We have episodes along the bottom and intensity up the side. So, guys, what do you think?
I think you're doing vital work. Now, I think zero gravity effect on hair has to be taken in consideration, and also helmets on hair.
Helmet hair.
That's true.
Matt Lucas, for my money, I mean, you know, he hasn't changed from last time, has he?
He hasn't changed much. Do you know what? I'm going to vote for the second eye. So it's sort of here. Is that too bad?
Okay. I can live with that. I can live with that.
Yeah, okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah, put him on, and then we'll.
There we are.
Yeah.
We've got Pearl next.
It's a shame we haven't got Peter Caulfield's character, because he was blue.
He was
Yeah.
very
And
intense.
bald.
Oh,
He was
yes.
blue and bald.
Blue and bold. He'd be
Which
higher,
is
wouldn't he?
a whole other thing.
I loved the way I was there on set when he was there, and people were just kind of going, "Bring on Blue Peter." It was just done in a real. Obviously, someone had called him Blue Peter as a gag, but they've been doing it for so many days that it had got boring. So they were just like, "Bring on Blue Peter," like a real.
You have to have a code. There's too many Peters.
Yeah.
There were too many Peters on set.
Pearl.
Strong.
Very strong, especially with a helmet. I mean, it's a big commitment, having to get the helmet on, helmet off.
And the 0G would boof it up, presumably. I think maybe the E.
The E?
T.
T?
Yeah.
T.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Higher, definitely
T.
higher. That's E.
Level with a sushi.
T. This T.
Yep.
And Peter.
I mean, he has to be at the top, doesn't he?
Chalky blonde.
Why does he have to be at the top?
Oh,
Because, I mean, particularly at the end, where we're in the room with the huge, the final scene, I've never seen somebody work as intensely as Peter did on that day. And his hair was along with it. Because you watch that scene and he is racing around, and he didn't, in between takes, that's what he did. He just didn't stop. He was doing his lines again and again and again, because you wrote him in a very intense scene. And he did it very intensely.
I feel
Which
like he
means his
needs
hair
space
had to be
grow.
checked intensely because he was very sweaty.
How about just one up?
wait.
You
Yeah.
happy?
Yeah, I can
Kieran.
live with that.
Speak now, forever hold your peace.
It just feels like. So why did you fall out? Oh, it was top of the
I feel
lot.
like-
It ended our friendship.
No, that's fine.
I feel like it wasn't his best hair episode.
And then,
so
he's
he
got
needs
somewhere
space
to go for later on in the series.
Awesome. Well, Peter's got his first place, which is quite nice. We'll keep an eye on that as the weeks progress. And now over to Luke in the internet.
Thanks, Christel. I see you've got 3 guests this week and a few more potted plants. I've got my own. It's called Bob. First things first, Peter Capaldi has been wowing convention audiences in Canada. Both Tess and Christine sent these amazing pictures of Peter trying on new Sonic specs. Very dashing. Meanwhile, back in Bristol, Ian Clark has a new theory as to what's in the vault. Of course, a Mondasian Sidemen pianist eating Chinese takeaway. Whoever said Sidemen were emotionless? I tell you who wasn't emotionless though, me. After I watched this amazing video from VG934. They've cut the speech from the pilot, from the Doctor talking about time, and it made me...
Time is the space made by our lives, where we stand together forever.
It seems that emotional is the feel of the week though, because some of you reacted very strongly to a certain word being used in episode 4. Rigid. Can I have some water, please? Rigid. No, I won't do it. I can't say it. In other news, Pearl and Bart, aka Pavel the Panelling, snapped a few selfies of their new housemates. Aw, look how happy they looked. But James decided that a couple of people wasn't enough and created this amazing Friends and Allies piece featuring all of our favourites from New Who. And Dr. Puppet, now complete with their very own Nardo, got Team TARDIS ready this week for oxygen. Do puppets need oxygen? We got some gorgeous artwork this week. We love seeing all of your pieces. It's amazing what you guys can do, so do keep sending them in. And finally, Mixitall threw down the gauntlet this week and challenged everyone to write their own spooky story. Links in the description if you want to have a go. Anyway, you talked a lot this week, Christel, so I'm going to call one of my friends, talk to someone. Plus I've got a plant to water to talk to. Say bye, Bob. See you next week. Don't be rude.
Next week, Big Boss Man Stephen Moffat will be returning to the Aftershow for a mid-season chit-chat. Plus, we'll be joined by the Queen of Evil, Michelle Gomez. I know, exciting. Don't you miss it, yeah? I know, terrible. Shh. In the meantime, click here to see a preview of next week's episode and click here to subscribe to the official Doctor Who YouTube channel. Here's a little challenge for you. How many breaths will you take between now and next week's episode? You can argue about it in the comments below. What's the prize, I hear you ask? Well, the joy of taking part. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.